So this is Sherman Ray, Black Success Magazine and Podcast. Today we're going to talk about how to look super confident in an interview. Next year we're actually going to be doing some pretty dynamic stuff. I'm very excited about it. We are going to shoot a pilot actually for a new show, which is going to be starting next year, and it's called Las Vegas Speaks. So we're preparing you right now because we know we have a lot of people who've expressed an interest in wanting to be a part of what we're doing with Black Success Magazine. So, so I want to help you folks by giving you some tips and some tricks on how to look just confident and just prepared and relaxed in an interview. It's really important that you get great training before you get out there and maybe say some things that you don't want to say or come off as somebody who's not who you are. Okay, so we want to, whoever you are sincerely, that's where we want to put you at. Before we do that though, just a reminder, Black Success Magazine, the magazine is actually out right now. I'm very excited about that. So it's probably, you can see it right here in my little shoulder here. So we're very excited about the magazine being out. One of the people that we interviewed for Theopolis Vineyards sent me a note yesterday on Instagram. She was so excited, just so excited. There are a lot of vineyards in California owned by black vintners, also in Oregon. So, and I happen to notice her, and she's got a great story. She's in California, and so just very excited about having her out there. So take a look at our magazine, Black Success Magazine. Just go to blacksuccessmagazine.com and you can check it out. I'm very excited about that. So let's talk about looking good and looking super confident in an interview. We call this media training. It really is. It's if you are working with a PR company, they're going to, and any good PR company is going to probably take you through just a class, just kind of a basic class on how to look good on stage, because this is important. You are not only going to represent yourself, okay, as an individual, but you're representing the company that you might be, it might be your company, it might be somebody else's company, but you want to come off as looking great. If you're in politics, and you'll probably see this a lot in politics, and you'll say to yourself, man, how do those guys stay on topic that way? Well, they've had really great media training to teach them how to get on topic, stay on topic, and to get their talking points out there. That's just great quality PR people, and that's really what it's talking about. So, what is media training? So, what is media training in a nutshell? Media training is a specialized course designed to coach business people on how to act in public interviews and how to get the best results from media appearances. So it's really not just you going on TV and saying, hey, I'm Joe or Sally or whatever it is. It's really, you're trying to get out your narrative. You're trying to get out whatever you're talking about and be the most effective that you can be, because really you've only got a couple of minutes. That's really pretty much it. Many interviews that you see out there don't last for more than 5 minutes. That's really pretty much tops. So what are you going to do as a business person, as a maybe it's you're talking about yourself. What are you going to do during the time that you've got? And that's what media training is all about. The training helps you learn to come across well on screen or over the radio. So it's not just, I want to come on and I want to wear a nice suit and wear a shirt that's pressed, or that even looks clean. But this could be on radio too. When we have the podcast right now, our podcast goes out and you don't see me at all. So you got to sound like, oh my gosh, you don't want to say a lot of ums and ahs, and that's one of the things I do a lot. But with more training and continued to get more practice on it, you get better and better and better. And tell you the truth, I've probably interviewed and been on radio at least 100 times, 200 times, 300 times. I don't know. It's been a lot. I've done a lot of radio. I've done a lot of TV. So I'm fairly comfortable standing in front of people and of course, giving, public speeches. I've done this for years. I mean, for 20 years, 30 years now, where I've done a lot of public speaking. But there's a lot of people out there who this might be your first time. And 2021 might be that year where you're going to come out and you're going to probably give it, and especially making up for lost time with COVID and everything else. So you want to come off professionally. You want to come off as somebody who is confident. And that's really what it's all about. Is because people will like you if you are confident, even if you're saying nothing. But if you sound confident in saying nothing, that's something. It really is. It's I know it doesn't make a lot of sense, but that's the way. It's the presence that you bring to the scene. That's really what's most important to you. You also want to keep your speaking on track, because if you're like me, I've got a lot of things going on in my mind all the time. Just a lot of stuff going on in my mind. You don't want to stray off track too much. You want to be very concise. You want to get where you're going. I've got a list of things that I want to talk to you about right here in front of me that keep me on track, and so I know where I'm going all the time. But when you're in an interview, you don't have that. So you want to. That's what media training will do. It'll help you keep you on track and keep you going down the road. It'll also help you to anticipate likely questions from your interviewer, because you don't know most of the time what your interviewer is going to ask you. Our pilot that we're going to be shooting in a couple of weeks now, the people who we've asked to be on the interview or on the pilot, they really don't know exactly what we're going to talk about. They do know in general what we're going to talk about. What we're going to do before we get them on is we're going to actually kind of run them through in another week or so. We'll actually give them a little more time to prepare what they're going to say, because they've got a limited amount of time to get out their narrative, and we want them to be very successful in what they're saying. So you want to be able to anticipate likely questions from your interviewer. Also, you want to give a polished and professional impression on that day. So you don't want to go on and look really terrible. There's no excuse for people to go on and for them to be looking around all over the place and not know what they're doing or how they're doing it, and that just it just doesn't go off very well that way at all. So let's talk about some things that you might have seen people do when they go on an interview and you know something bad just happened. Have you ever heard of the deer in the headlight look? Yeah, the deer in the headlight look is that look where people kind of, and the interviewer knows something happened too. You've just asked a question, and the interviewee, the guest on the show, has that look on their face like, what? I have no idea. and for content in a show, that's a killer. That's a no-no. You just don't want that to happen. You want to avoid that at all costs. You want to be ready at all times for whatever might come to you, or at least lessen the likelihood that you're going to have that deer in the headlight look where you just have no idea what to say, or how to, or even how to say it. You can't even tap dance around it. You just don't know what to say. It's a high pressure situation that you're in when you go into any interview. So let's lessen the anxiety, because not only are you representing yourself, as we were saying before, but you might be representing your company, and nobody wants people to just have terrible experiences during this time. So one of the biggest things that you want to do is you want to prepare as much as possible for whatever you're going to do, whatever you're going to be speaking about. You don't want to ever just come out and just try to wing it. As somebody who's done a lot of this stuff, I tend to wing a lot of things, but just because I know my subjects very well, and it doesn't matter what I'm talking about. I generally won't stray too far off of what I already know, because I just know my subjects. You, as an interviewee, you're coming onto a show, and you don't want to come in there and go, I didn't prepare. I'm just going to kind of come on there. I'm going to wing it. It just doesn't work. It just won't work. You want to prepare as much as you can. And at the end, if you stick around a little bit, we're going to actually talk about a couple of ways to nail your next presentation. We're going to give you 4 ways to nail your next presentation. Winging it is not part of what you want to do. So we'll also want to talk about that there's actually a difference between print media and broadcast media. And in either one of them, media training will actually help you out in tremendous ways to get your word out, to get your narrative out in both mediums. So having some kind of training in these is just imperative. So let's talk about 4 reasons why you need media training. We're still talking about how to be super confident in your next interview or your next presentation. So there are 4 reasons why you want to have some kind of media training in the first place. Number 1, it helps you maintain control of the interview. So this is interesting. Even though the interviewer is going to ask you questions, they cannot force you to say anything you don't want to say. So media training will actually help you to control the conversation. Because let's say I'm going to ask you a question about, and we've used this before, let's use this, Canon. Let's say, hey, guess what? I've got a Canon camera. I'd like you to talk about this. And you might say, well, that's wonderful, but that's not what I want to talk about. When you go into an interview, you should have been coached to say, I want to go this direction. I want to go left. Even though the interviewer wants to go to the right, no matter how many times they ask you to go to the right, you want to go to the left. And media training will actually help you get to the left. Number 2, it will help you develop an engaging speaking style. So this, once again, you have your own style of speaking. You could be the kind of person that's very gregarious, so you're really kind of up and beat, and you're just kind of like that. Or you could be the kind of person that's just kind of very serious, and you speak a little slower, that kind of thing too. But either way, media training, because what'll happen is you'll probably end up videotaping part of your conversation and playing it back, and you'll kind of look at what you're doing and how you're doing it, that kind of thing. Are there any inflections? Are you speaking monotone? That kind of thing. Is there excitement? Are there any highs or lows to the way you're speaking? But you want to develop your own speaking style. And that's important because even though you might be representing a company or a product or a service or something like that, you want to bring in a lot of you. So you want to bring in your own personality, because even though you might be speaking about a particular product or service or whatever, people are really wanting to connect with you. Many of you probably know about the, and I think it's Sprint commercial. I'm going to probably get it wrong, but there's a girl on a Sprint commercial, and really you don't, and this is probably indicative of why and how important having your own, your own style plays into your whole interview. I don't even remember what the product was. I do remember the girl, and the reason why I remember the girl is because I like her. I don't even know what she's talking about half the time, but I like her as a person because I like the way she speaks. I like the personality, and that is probably half of the battle of an interview, is getting people to like you. I mean, do they like your speaking style? Do they like, the way you you kind of, is it the lilt in what you say? Some of you like the guy who's, he's in Star Wars or Star Trek, Captain Jean-Luc Picard. Many people like him just because of his voice. It's just his speaking voice. And he's had a lot of media training, a lot of acting training to teach him that is his calling card. It's not because he's a handsome leading man. It's because of his speaking voice. You've got to begin. Media training will actually help you develop your speaking, how you speak, and how you come off. Number 3, it encourages you to prepare answers and some anticipated questions that might happen. When you're going into an interview, you want to be prepared. And so you want to be prepared with what you're going to say and also what kind of questions might be asked of you. Because there's nothing worse than you being asked a question about, you know, your ex or an old job that you were in. I'm just checking my time here, folks. Sorry about that. There's no reason why you want to be caught off guard by questions that you're going, oh my gosh, I never thought that they were going to ask me that question. Well, you should know this. And there is really no reason why anybody going to an interview should be caught off guard. A good PR firm, a good representative company will actually take you through all that. They will have done research on the TV station, on the interviewer, because not only does this TV station or that channel or that particular show have a certain demographic that they're working with, but that interviewer might actually have his own agenda too. And so he might be the kind of guy who pulls a rabbit out of his hat on occasion and says things that, that you're going, oh my gosh, he could be Jerry Springer. If you were going on the Jerry Springer show, you know what Jerry Springer is going to say. So you don't be caught off guard going on there. I saw the show one time, and young girl comes on there, and it was a crazy Jerry Springer show. And he said, have you ever seen my show? And I won't go into the details of what the thing was about, but he was so surprised that this girl came onto his show and had no idea who he was or what likely was probably going to happen if you went onto his show. Because when she went onto his show, he pulled a rabbit out of his hat. This was terrible. It was just terrible. So you want to know what your interviewer is like too. And number 4, developing and expressing your key message. So having a media training will actually train you how to get your message out. Really important that even though you're going on to a show, the interviewer might be going to the right or the left, you've got a message, you've got talking points, that's the key word, talking points about what you're going to say during the interview. And if the interviewer might be talking about, a lake, or you might be talking about hiking or whatever, you're coming right back to where you're going. This is where you're going. You know exactly where you're going. You knew it before you were going on the show. So you know how to pivot, and you know how to pivot from every question. He asks you about your mom. You go, yeah, my mom is great, wonderful, but back to here, this is where I want to go. That's the direction I want to go. A great media training will actually train you how to get back to where you want to go. So, in the time we have left, let's talk about 4 interview tips to help you the next time you go into an interview. Number 1, speak clearly and simply. A lot of people get nervous, and when you get nervous, the tendency is to speak a lot faster. And I noticed that myself. The converse is actually more conducive to people listening to you. Speaking slower, because people will wait on every word you say. Now there's a balance. You don't want to be so slow that everybody kind of goes, dang man, can you just get it out? Just get it out. But you don't want to speak so fast that you're always going that really shows that you're nervous, and people will get it. So when you're trying to talk about a particular thing, you want to slow down a little bit, be a little more deliberate in what you say, and people will say, man, that's a confident guy because he's very deliberate in what he says. I want to listen to what he or she has to say. So speak clearly, simply. You don't have to be very flowery with it. And don't say words that people are not going to understand. That's, you're saying my, whatever, and it just flies out there. People are going, what did he say? I don't want to listen to this person. They're bougie. So you don't want to go there either. Next thing, maintain good eye contact with your host. Nothing is more sets people off when you're speaking with a interviewer and you're looking all over the place. You're looking every place else. It looks like you're evasive. So you want to keep fairly good eye contact with your host and be very deliberate with them. It's a conversation. Have a conversation with that host, and it just makes you look like you're more confident, you're more laid back. You're comfortable in your own skin. You're not hiding anything. You're gonna answer them with the questions they have. Oh, good, great, going great on time. I want to leave enough time at the end. I said, look, I'm going to give you 4 tips on how to nail your next presentation. Next, inject a good deal of your own personality in the presentation. So once again, you want to, if you are, somebody who's got a lot of country or French or whatever in your personality, let that come through a little bit because people are really buying you. Let them see you as you, and that's really kind of where you're at. So don't be afraid to allow you out. If you're a very funny person, I tend to be a very funny person. I think I'm a very funny person. My kids may not think I'm a very funny person, but I'm a pretty funny person. Put on a friendly face. Have a great voice. Be happy about what you're doing, and you'll connect with people a lot better that way. And number 4, do some background research on your interviewer. We've talked about this earlier. Your interviewer, the type of show they have, what types of questions they tend to ask, what the people that might have been on the show before that get the best reaction from people. That might be something that you're also looking at too. I'm going to change this just a little bit. I've got a little bit too much light hitting me right there in the Facebook. Oh man, that was very interesting. I was getting blinded by light coming in to the room here. So look up the show, look up the interviewer, look up how they're doing what they're doing. Who gets the best reaction from people? It just helps you out tremendously. And we're not saying you become the person, but we are saying that there might be parts of that interview or parts of the person who gets the best reaction that might be something that you're saying, oh, I do that. And you might have been thinking, oh, I'm going to hide that. You don't have to hide that. That's part of who you are. So coming off confident in an interview is incredibly important that you can build confidence in an interview by just adopting a few things, by getting a little bit of training. And like I said, we are going to be having a show. We're going to be shooting a pilot here in the next couple of weeks. We've actually got the people who are going to be in it already, so don't worry about it. We've already got the guests on the show already. But next year coming up, we're launching an entire TV show, and you might be on it. So I'm very excited about that. Let's talk, in the time we have left, let's talk about 4 ways to nail your next big presentation. Okay? 4 ways to nail your next big presentation. I said if you stuck around, I would give this to you, and here it comes. Number 1, research your audience. We talked about this before. Know who your audience is. When you go in, if you're going into a biker bar, you better know it before you walk in the door. You better know it. Don't go into a situation where you have no idea who it is and what kind of things that they've seen before. Check out who's been there before. That'll give you a great indication of what kind of people that you're going to be in front of. This will help you to prepare your presentation for that particular audience. Because really, it's not just about you. Because a lot of people say, well, it's just about me and I've got my thing that I'm talking about. Really, that's not about you. It's about them. How are they going to receive what you are speaking about? Number 2, avoid lecturing. People do not like to be lectured at all. They like to have a two-way conversation. So if you're going to do a presentation, let's say you're doing it in front of a large audience, a large group of people, let there be a little give and take. Have eye contact with the people that are in front of you. One of the coolest ways you can actually have a presentation is that you're actually having a slideshow. You're doing kind of visual presentation. That's number 3. Having a PowerPoint presentation is awesome, but because it lends to that multimedia thing. It's really kind of cool. It's not you just standing there the entire time, almost like TED Talks. But you want to have some give and take with the audience too. Say, hey, has anybody seen this before? Look at the audience every once in a while and go, hey, are you digging this? Pretty cool stuff. So build a visual, interactive presentation for your people, and they will love it. I mean, they will say, oh my gosh, this guy really kind of took the time to do something extra for us instead of just coming up with pieces of paper, and it's kind of talking. And mix up those slides. So mix them up so that you're not just showing slideshow after slideshow after slide. You're showing a slide, you might walk off, talk about whatever you're talking about for a little bit, come back to your slide. I mean, it's not like it's going anyplace, right? So you can come back. And number 4, if you want to nail your next presentation, do a better job preparing for your presentation. Do not wing it. Okay, this is like imperative. So you can nail your next presentation. You can do it. A lot of people don't do this because it's really hard. It's tough to get out there and read and reread and practice your presentation. But it will pay off in the end. Practice your presentation 100 times if you have to. You want to know it before you go out there. You don't want to just go on there and read off a piece of paper the whole time. It's not. It shows laziness, and you don't want to be a lazy presenter. You want to be asked back. You want to be asked back to these people, to this particular college or to whatever corporation that you might be going to speak to. You want to be asked back, and if they know that you're walking in with a swagger, right? You know your stuff. There's no doubt that you know your stuff. They're going to ask you back. All right, we're good. So, folks, I want to thank you so much for being a part of the show today. Once again, go to our website, which is blacksuccessmagazine.com. Check out our magazine, which is on there. Very excited about it. We're already working on the March presentation, but this magazine, it's our inaugural one. You don't want to miss this. It was a labor of love to get it out there, and we are so excited about being in your home. You can download it. We'll make sure that today we have the webmaster up there working on the website. So hopefully today you'll be able to download the magazine. Share it with your friends and family. Just go to blacksuccessmagazine.com. If you'd like to be in an interview next month, next month coming up, because we're booked through the end of the year. If you'd like to be on the show, send me an email, info@blacksuccessmagazine.com. It's info@blacksuccessmagazine.com. Thank you once again, folks, for being a part of the show. We'll be back tomorrow, 8:30 in the morning for Black Success Magazine. I'm Sherman Ray. We will talk to you soon.